Okay, so good afternoon. I just want to know, does any of you not know what an F looks like? An F, the letter F. Anybody? Okay, just to be sure, that's what an F looks like. Okay. Can any of you not count to 20? You, sir. Okay. I hope you're not a developer. Okay, so my assumption is that all of you know what an F looks like, and all of you can count to 20. Okay? I'm going to give you a bit of a test. I'm going to show you a sentence, and I want you to count the F's in that sentence. Okay? I'm not going to give you lots of time, just enough time to read through it and count the F's. Okay, ready? Go. Okay. So let me see. Who of you counted only one F? No one. Okay. 2? No one. Okay, who counted 3? We've got 4 people. Who counted 4 Fs? Quite a lot of you. Who counted 5? There's still a few. Any 6s? Wow, okay, that's quite a bit. Who counted 7? Who counted 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who counted 9? Anybody 10 and more? Okay, that's good. No one's lying. Well, I hope not. Okay, the truth is, there are 8. So all of you can count to 20, and all of you know what an F looks like. Yet, we got such a wide range of perspectives on such a small little task. So, I'm going to discuss a few concepts that you are also used to looking at very regularly, like you are used to looking at an F or count to 20. But I'm going to present just a different perspective on those concepts. My topic is one of mastery and craftsmanship. But the destination where I want to take us with this topic is that of work fulfillment. The journey towards work fulfillment that I want to present is that of mastery. And the mindset that we need in order to get there or to go on this journey is that of craftsmanship. Have you ever asked yourself whether as a software developer, your only growth option in your career is that of management? Have you ever asked yourself whether you have found your passion and you are busy living out your passion in your work that you do? If you've ever asked yourself one of those questions, you are at the right place. So I'm going to explore 3 statements and give you those different perspectives. So the first statement is that of management is your only career growth option as a software developer. Let's look at, here's what happens in most corporates. We all start off at the bottom of the career ladder. There we learn to manage ourselves. Okay, if you do that well enough, so you manage your own time and your resources, and you, as a software developer, you get to estimate very accurately on how long you will work on certain items, and then you might get the opportunity to be promoted and look after projects, whether that's in a project manager role or a team lead role. But a project is a time-boxed, resource-limited item. So if you do that well and long enough and good enough, you might get the opportunity to be promoted to lead a team. If you do that, and that's looking after people for a long term. If you do that well enough, then you might get the opportunity to lead an organization or part of an organization. And this is what is presented to us most of the time in most of the organizations that I'm sure most of you work in. The truth is that this is not the only growth model. And a bit later, I'll show you another one. But for now, let's look at the second statement. To be fulfilled and happy at your job, you first need to find your passion and then follow it. So this is a statement that I myself, as a coach, have told so many people. But what recent research has shown us is that there's a fundamental flaw in this. The hypothesis behind finding your passion and following that is that we put ourselves in a place where we constantly ask ourselves, am I happy? Am I happy? Am I happy? What am I getting out of my job? What am I getting? Instead of asking, am I making a difference to the rest of the world? And another problem that I have with it is very few of us know what our passion is, to start off with. When I studied computer science, I had no idea what it entails to be a software developer in the real world out there. So how can I know that that's actually my passion? Yes, there are talents and there are strengths that I have that I can apply and I get energy from aspects of it. But there was no way that I could know back then that I was studying the right thing, which was my passion. So the truth is, and I'll dive into that just now, but is that you can have your passion follow you. And that goes to my next statement. Getting what you really need in your career will take a lot of hard work and sacrifice. So this, unfortunately, is true. So let's look at what is it that we really need. The first thing that we really need, and if you've been part of some of the other talks of intrinsic motivation and so on, you would see this, you probably have seen this word before. What you need is to have some control over how and where you spend your time. What you also need is each of us have an intrinsic need to know that I am doing something good for the world. I am making a difference. And that's called purpose. We also, each of us, have an intrinsic need to belong, to be part of a community, not to feel that we are hitting this thing on our own. And that's called relatedness. And lastly, but not least at all, is we need to know that we are getting better at something. We are actually good at something. And that is called mastery. And I'm convinced that this journey of mastery, along this journey, you will find relatedness, purpose, and autonomy as well. And for those geeks who want to look this up, self-determination theory, you can Google that. So I said, to get what you really need in your career takes a lot of hard work. What does that look like? It does actually not look like this. Sometimes, true. Sometimes it's necessary to do over time. But if you think that you are going to master the craft of software development, this is not how it's going to look like. The hard work is actually acts of courage. Hard work is sometimes saying no to your team or your boss for overtime, so that you can go home and be a good husband or wife, or be a good father or mother, and have a holistically healthy life, and come back to work the next day whole. Hard work is fully engaging in a retrospective meeting where you actually tell people how you feel and really listen how they felt during the last week or two. Acts of courage could even be taking some of your own time. Hard work is taking some of your own time and deliberately practicing some of the skills that's required. And that's not just coding. And as I said, it will take sacrifice. Unfortunately, this is something that, or this journey of mastery, this mindset of craftsmanship, is something that each of us have to own. We cannot, at this moment, just look to our companies and demand that they give that to us, because the industry isn't there yet. So some of the sacrifices that you might have to make is to say, okay, for lower pay or lower status than what you might have if you moved on to management. The journey of mastery, this mindset of craftsmanship, is best described using the model of the guilds of the Northern European guilds. These guilds were essentially a group of people within the same craft who supported each other socially, but also in their journey towards mastery. In these guilds, these guilds looked after the craft's quality and reputation in the community. Being part of a guild like this, you had your proprietary rights protected, and this was also one of the first places where you could get a pension. But also something fundamentally crucial is that a guild gave its members access to the craft's international community. And that was especially important in the journeyman phase, which we'll get to later. So let's say you are an aspiring blacksmith in the 1600s. So imagine yourself, here you go, you're just being kicked out of the house by your mom, and you decide that you want to pursue blacksmithing as your craft. You would start out as an apprentice and go look for a mentor within that guild. A mentor can come in the shape of a master or a professional blacksmith. Having a mentor meant that you would have sufficient challenging work that keeps on stretching you and keeps on helping you grow as a blacksmith. As an apprentice, it was also crucial that you learn the tools and techniques of the craft. In blacksmithing, that's anything from punching, splitting, and fire welding, riveting. And also, as an apprentice, you would study the works of masters in your craft. Studying those works gave you an appreciation of the journey that lay ahead of you, but also it would show you where you have growth opportunities. So in software development, as an apprentice, you would also have to learn the tools and techniques of the craft. But these do not only include coding. It is practices like how to have an effective stand-up meeting, or how to truly engage with your team members. TDD, how to use your Git effectively. So I hope you are starting to understand that to grow in mastery takes the whole of you, not just the competence training. So about 5,000 hours of challenging work. So that can be a combination of work that you actually do, and I think it should, work that you actually do and deliberate practice. About 5,000 hours for an apprentice to get to the professional phase. So if you've done your 5,000 hours, and in the guilds, you were expected to present a professional piece to show for your 5,000 hours. If that was accepted, you were accepted as a professional in the guild. So still, with guidance from a master and support from your peers, the other professionals, you would keep on training. You wouldn't stop. You would keep on studying the works of masters, but now it would also be expected from you to contribute to the working environment. Excuse me. So it would be expected that you contribute to a transparent and open and productive environment. You would start helping out with the running of projects. That could be anything from working with suppliers to getting requirements from new clients or managing the finances. And then lastly, a professional started to develop their own style. Okay. So for a software developer, the mindset of this phase would translate into, once again, you contributing to an open and productive environment. So that could look like you working your agile coach out of a job because you help to make the team a self-managed team. So the professional phase is a very rewarding phase because this is where you start to feel and see the value that you are adding as an individual. So combined with the journeyman phase, it takes another 5,000 hours of challenging work combined with deliberate practice to get to the phase of master. More on that later, but as a professional, as you realize that your guild, where you are currently, where you've probably been for the last 5 to 7 years, isn't giving you enough challenging work to do, you would have the opportunity, with the connections that your guild could give you, to go on a journey and become a journeyman that travels the world and visits other guilds within the same craft. So being a journeyman meant that you could learn from other cultures, see how other cultures approached your craft, learn from different masters as you traveled, and at the end of your journeyman phase, it was expected that you produce your first 3 masterpieces. That's a combination that shows the combination of all the skills and experience you've accumulated during the years. So for a software developer in the journeyman phase, this could mean anything from working on a different project with your same team, but maybe with different specialists joining the team, working with other masters. Or it could mean that you really actually go on a journey, become a consultant for a few years, or join another organization, or volunteer some of your time and work on open source projects. So masterpieces in software development are quite difficult to identify. And as all of you know, we have a very young industry. But some of the masterpieces that do stand out and that are worth studying and imitating, or the best in their genre or era. Sorry? Okay, that's just the masterpiece. Emacs Editor by Richard Stallman, Text by Donald Knuth, Lisp by John McCarthy, Smalltalk by Alan Kay and his team, and the Python language by Guido van Rossum. So afterwards you can come throw stuff at me if you don't agree. So after you've presented your masterpieces and it's been accepted as actual masterpieces, you would be accepted into the guild as a master. And this would happen between the ages of about 45 to 55, depending on when you started in your craft and how much of your time were you able to spend on challenging work and deliberate practice. When meeting a master, the first thing you would notice is that person's modesty, because a master of his craft knows how little he knows. Another thing you would see is that person, after all of these years spending in that craft and learning and growing, he or she is still fascinated with their craft. In software development, as I said, it's a very new industry, but there's only a handful of masters. And here are 4 of them. James Gosling, Java. Uncle Bob, probably know him as the guy who wrote Clean Code. John Carmack, probably played his game Doom. And Kent Beck, which I hope needs no introduction. But very few people get to the stage of being a master. But even fewer become artists. An artist is a master of the craft who keeps on growing, who keeps on. So what was required to stay a master of the craft was that you had to keep on producing masterpieces. You couldn't just, there's my 3 masterpieces, now I'm a master and now you all bow to me. You had to keep on creating masterpieces, keep on developing the craft as a whole, keep on contributing. And what was also required as a master is that it was required that you mentor other people. And that could come in different forms. That could come through books that you write. It could come through one-on-one interactions, or it could come in smaller groups. Whatever your style, you had to contribute in some way to the next generation. So back to the artists, as I said, there are very few masters of the craft of software development, but even fewer artists. But here are some of them. So these guys are also seen as some of the founding fathers of the craft of software development. Watts Humphrey, known as father of software quality, Edsger Dijkstra, and another one, Donald Knuth, the father of analysis of algorithms. So just to give those of you who don't know these guys some idea of the depth that they brought to our craft, is Donald Knuth has a series of books called The Art of Computer Programming. And in one of the introductions of his books, Bill Gates wrote this: If you think you're a really good programmer, read Knuth's Art of Computer Programming. You should definitely send me a resume if you can read the whole thing. To grow in mastery, you cannot only, as I said before, you cannot only grow in competence. You also need to grow in character. No man can climb out beyond the limitations of his own character. When I started off in software development, I knew everything and I could build anything as long as it was with Java. But I soon learned that I had to get out of my little hubris box and I had to engage with a team. I had to learn to take feedback. I had to learn how to give feedback. I had to learn this concept of constructive criticism. I had to learn how to engage in conflict and how to hold other people accountable for their work and be willing to be held accountable for my work. So this journey of mastery, this mindset of craftsmanship, we cannot do that alone. You cannot go on this journey alone. But the good news is, here where we sit today, this is the biggest community of software developers together in South Africa. So next to you might sit a potential mentor or mentee or someone you can just bounce stuff off. So this is the prime opportunity. If you haven't done so yet, I hope you do so at the cocktails tonight. But engage with each other. Hear each other's stories. Even if that's all you do, you will learn. We need each other. So, essentially, I presented mastery as a different model to just the management model. And I said that if you are intrinsically motivated, along the way you will find that you get passionate, you become passionate about what you do. And to get what you really want, and that is to be fulfilled at your work, will take a lot of hard work and sacrifice. But it is totally worth it. The rewards are great. Just think, you can develop skills that are rare and valuable. You can start doing something useful and good for the world. You can actually work with people that you like. That one alone is worth it for me. You can belong to a community of people who support you socially, but also professionally as you grow in your mastery. And you can have control about when and where you work. And as I said, it will cost you something, but it's worth it. And our country and our industry needs more software craftsmen. I was at a talk by some of the guys from 8th Light, and they said that a big problem in our industry, and we say we don't want to be micromanaged. Who of you wants to be micromanaged? Don't think so. But the problem is we aren't professional enough. And the mindset of a craftsman, if you go on this journey of mastery, that's where we can get together as an industry. We can become more professional. And this journey is tough but rewarding, and it's available to all of us. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Are there companies in the world doing making the concept of mastery?
Yes, and in our country as well. There are that guy there standing there. He's part of a company like that. There are actually a few that I know of, and lots of the guys speaking here. I'm just afraid that I forget some of them. But in reality, in South Africa, Driven Alliance, Chilisoft, those are all companies that take these things seriously, and they expect a software craftsmanship from their people.